We are remembering Hurricane Irma 5 years later after it devastated portions of the Caribbean, had a high impact in the southeastern United States, ended up being a Category 5 hurricane. Here to talk about his experience 5 years ago in early September is Field Correspondent Erik Fox. He was in the Virgin Islands. Even that flight out of Miami to get to the Virgin Islands was a little bit odd too. Explain that.
Well, the plane was completely empty. That's when you know you're going into a situation that's going to be dire and dangerous, when the flight going in had 3 people on it. The first thing we noticed when we got there was the airport. The airport was this lined with, I'd say, hundreds to thousands of people trying to evacuate the area.
So then when the storm was hitting, what was the worst part?
The worst part was the unknown. I wasn't worried about getting off of the island at that point, but I knew that there was going to be destruction and death and a lot of injuries. And as a public servant, my mind was like, how do I take care of these people that are going to be around us? My thought process was getting mentally prepared and reporting back to WeatherNation what we had going on. The sounds and the things that we knew were going on around us were very scary at points. We knew that we were going to be in for a long haul towards the recovery. We look up and there's buildings that were there that were no longer there, and most of those were wood structures. Any of the wood structures there were gone. We had 3-4 foot storm surge. We had cars up on telephone poles. Everything that you see and hear about Cat 5 hurricanes, that's what we were seeing. And then the fire started up on there were several fires going on up on the hill down around us, and at that point I made a decision to stay in the hotel and report on what we could.
Erik, tell us about the couple of days after, when you're actually able to get out from the hotel and see some of the damage.
Yeah, it was about 24 to 36 hours later that we were actually able to get out of the hotel. It was complete destruction, especially on the north side of the island, where the southern eye wall went through that southern part, come across St. John, devastated St. John, coming across the north part of the island, which is where most of the resorts are. Even the trees that were planted there after people had moved in St. Thomas, they were all down. It went from green to brown, almost like desert light. And that was just from the vegetation just being completely taken out from the hurricane. The Frenchman's Reef, which is a very famous hotel, was completely destroyed. And I had stayed at that hotel previously, and that was the initial hotel we had tried to stay in, and it's still not open. Here we are 5 years later, and I believe it's opening next month. And that's how long and how bad the devastation was to the resorts and the economy of St. Thomas. No boat could get in, no ships could get in, even including military ships, because they were worried about running into other structures underground that had been put in the water. In the airport, the air traffic control tower was completely destroyed. It was taken down, toppled down, so they couldn't land aircraft. Due to the mountains, you had to have, visual sight of the aircraft to make them land, and the Marine Corps brought in special tacticians to land these aircraft, and that's what brought in the aid and the effort to help St. Thomas and St. John. My main worry before and after, which was, on an island, you're stuck and you're not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. That was my main thing with Irma, was an island, and we knew we were going to be there for a long haul.
Our field correspondent Erik Fox with that first-hand experience 5 years ago with Irma. Thanks so much for your time.